Hi everybody, Kathy Syrett from the Confident Leader Journey here. Now, as you can see, still working on getting the tooth fixed, but hopefully that won't distract you too much from this week's vlog. So this week's vlog, I was asked a question the other day. A friend of mine had been asked to do something by a colleague, and she basically wanted to say no, but she didn't want to damage the relationship they had. And this got me thinking about how to say no in a way that the other person almost takes ownership of it. And that's what we're going to look at today, how to say no. And fundamentally, this is taken from the fabulous book, Never Split the Difference, Negotiating as if Your Life Depended on It, which is a book written by Chris Voss, who was the top FBI negotiator. And his claim to fame is that he was involved in radically changing the approach to negotiations, hostage negotiations, etc., from a rational kind of business style negotiation to one that explicitly addressed emotion and empathy. There's a lot of good stuff in the book, but one of the takeaways for me was an approach to saying no that resonated with me because it was very close to a lot of other approaches I've seen in training, etc., but it was explained so much more clearly in Chris's book. So let's say someone comes to you with an unreasonable demand. This could be of any kind. It could be about to do with your workload. It could be to do what they're asking you to do with the team. It could simply be an unreasonable price for something you want to buy. Okay. And our gut instinct is, no, I can't do that. But the relationship with the person is something we don't want to jeopardize or destroy. So what we're going to look at is the four-step process that Chris recommends, and that is so effective, especially if we do it the right way. So let's look at the process first. So the first process is basically to ask some form of, how am I supposed to do that? Or how do you see me doing that? Fundamentally, what you're doing is you're not saying no, but you're saying, I can't see a way that I can do this thing you're asking or achieve that sale price you're asking for. Help me. And the brilliant thing about this question is it actually puts the other person back in control. So it doesn't put them on the defensive. So we haven't triggered any negative or threat emotions in this. Now, obviously, our tone has to be quite critical here. So if someone came to me and said, you need to finish that book you're writing about confident leadership by next month so we can hit the Christmas market. And I'm just in despair. I have no idea how I'm going to do that. So I can say, okay, I can see that that's a great goal to have, but how exactly am I supposed to do that? Now notice I nearly went to put exactly in, and how exactly am I supposed to do that would sound a bit sarcastic. I have to wind my neck in a little bit and go, so but how am I supposed to do that? They then have to come up with something else to say, well, if you organize your time effectively and put the effort in, I don't see a problem with that. And so the next stage is how to say no a little bit more politely, and that would be, I see, yeah, that's a very reasonable point of view. I'm sorry, I don't see how that works for me. Pause. So you notice I haven't got into justifying anything. I'm also not saying that they're unfair. I'm saying that seems very reasonable. I can see that's reasonable, but I'm sorry, I just don't see how that works for me. So their view is reasonable, but I don't see it working for me. Now, in a lot of cases, what this will then trigger is, what do you mean you don't see it working for you? And we end up in a conversation about that. Okay? So it can go off in that route. Or they might still stay with the more directive route and they might say, well, I don't see why it won't work for you. It needs to be done by Christmas, at which point I'll say, I'm sorry, I just can't do that. Now, any reasonable or rational person will then go, why not? Why can't you do it? Okay. And at that point, you're not in kind of the negotiation about no anymore. You're in a conversation about the fact that they have a goal and you can't achieve it by their timeline, and you're in a conversation about this, about how to get there. So I might say, well, given that I've recently started a full-time job, um, the most I can allocate to book writing at the moment is about 4 hours a week. How many hours do you see the book taking? Boom. They come up with a number. I'll go, okay, so how many weeks does that mean the project will take? They come up with a number. And we see that the earliest the book can be done is probably next February. So we've taken something that was a potential conflict where they had a demand and I had a no, and we've taken it, no, I can't do that, but I can do this. Okay, do you see that? Now, if they kept pushing, I could have just ended up with no, but I've given them 3 escape routes from it. Now, you can use this on pricing as well. What you can add in on the pricing is when you get down to the calculation of things, it's a slightly different negotiation, and we could use something called the Ackerman negotiation, where we make offers in decreasing increments. But one of the key things is, in all of that, not getting emotional, acknowledging that they're being reasonable from their point of view, and trying to get the conversation onto a conversation about the project rather than a conversation about the deadlines. Do you see the difference there? Okay. So how can we apply this to other situations as well? Have a think about situations where your first response to say someone is like no or no way, and think about how you can use this process, where the first thing you go is, well, how am I supposed to do that? I see very reasonable or very generous. I'm sorry, I don't see that working for me. And then, I'm sorry, I just can't do that. I can't see how I can do that. On those 3 things, you're not actually saying no, you're just saying you just can't see how that will work, and you're pushing it back on them to come up with ideas for making it work. And eventually you should end up on the same side of the table looking at the issue and how to make it work, rather than a demand and a negative response perspective. How to say no is really important. So taking this questioning approach, the question and statement approach, just knowing you can do that is very powerful. Now, if you've got any questions about this, or you'd like to work through some scenarios of your own, on the Confident Leader Journey community group on Facebook, or the Confident Leader Journey page on Facebook, pop your feedback about this. So, well, what about this situation? What about this situation? And let's play with a few of these questions. Let's play with a few of these things. Something that often happens when you do this. Now, notice I haven't asked them why they want it. Why not? Because as soon as I ask them why, it can sound accusatory. Why do you want it by then? The tone's going to come through in my voice. It's accusatory. It's implying that their judgment's faulty. They could hear it negatively, so I don't do that. I put the onus on them to ask me why I can't do it by then, or why it doesn't work for me. Okay. A slightly different mindset. Okay. And what often happens when you start thinking about these questions is something unusual comes up. So let me give you an example. And again, this is again about the book thing. So someone says to me, we really want that book out by Christmas to hit the Christmas market. And I go, okay, so how am I supposed to do that? The response, well, if we get it done by the Christmas market, that means the sales are going to go up, which would be a significant boost for the firm at the moment. And we generally see bigger sales around about Christmas when people buy things as gifts for each other. Now notice, I didn't ask them that, but they offered the explanation. And I go, no, I see, that makes absolute sense. However, I'm sorry, I just don't see that working for me. And I go, yeah, I know, it's a big ask, came the response. How about if we build some time into your working week for you to focus on the book and reduce your workload so you can actually do some of it in work time? So what had started off as a demand was something that was impossible for me to accomplish. By pushing it back to them and saying, I don't see how I can do it, what actually ended up with was an offer. And they were the one putting the effort into the compromise, into the collaboration. And the interesting thing about that is, because it was their idea, it's far more likely to actually happen. If I had come up with ideas, like in my first example, they're not committed to it because it's my idea. When it's their idea, they're going to fight for it. So when I said, okay, I still can't quite see how that works, I said, oh, don't worry, I've got your back. That book's my priority. So I'm going to have your back inside the company to make sure it gets done. Do you see the difference there? We've gone from someone basically making a demand of me to now having my back on doing this. Very different situation. So, how to say no in a way that actually gets you results. There you go. Have fun with that. And as I said, visit the Confident Leader Journey page on Facebook or the Confident Leader Journey community group on Facebook, where if you've got some specific examples you want to talk through, let's do that. Okay, take care.